Hello, guys. Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I'm going to be talking about debt and why I don't think that debt is a very smart thing to get into if you don't need to, or if you don't think that the value of whatever you're taking the debt out for is going to produce something that's worth more in the future. This doesn't mean like gambling options with on margin or doing anything like that. I'm talking about if you're getting like a degree from your university, then that makes sense to go. If you're getting like a degree from your university, then that makes sense to go into debt for because you're going to probably increase the future cash flows of your life over the long run. And it just kind of makes sense for a lot of careers you might want to go into. And then if you're buying a house, ideally you were trying to get something that is going to appreciate in value and be worth more money in the future. So sometimes that can make sense if you're buying a house with a certain percentage down and a certain loan. I still think that you are getting the short end of the stick on that because you don't truly own it until it's paid off. And there's a lot of interest you have to pay off. I really think the bank has the edge on it a lot of the times when it comes to making loans, because if they weren't making money off of loans, they wouldn't be writing them. So I really don't think it's usually very smart to get a loan of any kind unless it is for education and it's, sensible. You don't want to get student loans for like $400,000 if the most you can make in a year is $60,000. And that's kind of where the limit of your degree is that $60,000 range. You don't want to take out $400,000 worth of debt. But if you're taking out like $20,000 of debt and you're going to go from, 60 to 70 to 80, and there's like a clear path up with this degree, obviously you might need a master's or something else to hit that next level, whatever that range is. But that's probably going to be higher than if you had no education, depending on what type of degree it is, the field, all those very specific things. But if you're making an investment like that on yourself, then I think that that's more low risk and makes a lot of sense for the long term because it's something that's just going to improve your overall quality of life. But if you're going into debt for a house, that to me feels like you're making a huge risk on a transaction that's not very liquid. You still have to pay taxes for even after you fully own it. Rates are very high right now. You have insurance. You have all these costs for this asset that is not making you anything, not generating anything, and you're in debt for it. So you're going to have to keep working past the actual value of what it's even worth. Whereas I can sit there and just pay rent and then put my money into stocks that are generating profits and that I could sell at any time with no real estate agent, no fees, nothing like that. Less risk because I'm not putting it into an asset in one particular neighborhood. I can have multiple different stocks that are in completely different industries, so there can be a difference in performance there. It's not like I'm making this massive, massive bet and, I know that my city's not going to be worth less money as a whole in 2 years because that could happen. Or, the market falls apart or, a million different things where I'm buying into something leveraged, only owning 20% of it, and the value of it could drop 30% overnight, Whereas with stocks, as long as I can afford to pay my rent, I'm good. I don't have to worry about all these taxes, all these different things, paying all these people for the transaction. I can just generate more equity, right? I think that makes a lot more sense to me than having this huge debt on this one asset that's not producing anything versus having no debt and being able to put money into extremely valuable companies that are growing their profits every single year. I think I would rather have the pieces of companies that are producing things than the real estate that's not doing anything. That to me makes more sense, and it's more liquid. It depends obviously on the real estate too. If you find something that makes a lot of sense and is low maintenance and everything like that. But I still believe that instead of buying it on debt, you should just buy it cash because I don't think that you can truly afford to buy it if you're using debt. I just think it's something you have to kind of, be willing to rent for a while and then make enough money to buy something with cash or put it into stocks. And then those will grow and eventually you can sell them and buy a house if you want one. I don't think it's that advantageous to actually be a homeowner. I think you're taking on a lot of risk. I think you're also taking on a lot of different costs. I think it only makes sense once you have a certain amount of wealth and you just want full autonomy. It's very easy to buy, but I don't think you should be taking out loans for a mortgage at all. Honestly, unless it makes sense for your kids or something like that, I think it's totally different. Then I think it's okay to take out debt to help their future because that's kind of a moral decision and I think it's the right one still. But yeah, I'm not a fan of any debt. I don't think that debt is something that you want to get involved with at all. But I do think that individual good companies are where you want your money. You don't want it with a bunch of fees or anything like that. And you sure as heck do not want to be in any debt. If it's between paying off your debt or investing in a certain stock that I'm recommending, always pay off your debt, in my opinion. Because I think it's better to get rid of the guaranteed liability that you're going to have, and introduce all this risk. Because what if your stock tanks and then you can't afford to pay off whatever debt, and then you get more debt put on? Then you're even more behind. But if you just pay it off, then you're done with it, and then you can actually start to build because you're not in the negatives anymore. So I guess for some people too, it's just a different state of mind. Like, I could not imagine trading options for anything other than something super strategic. And I think that taking risks really could put your money in other people's pockets really quickly that are selling you options contracts, which is something that I did used to do. Because I think that the casino tends to make more money than the player. I think the house usually wins. And that's how I feel about options traders most of the time. The people buying options, usually are paying a pretty penny for that. They're paying the premium. Wherever I was going with this, though, I feel like debt is a very negative thing. You don't want to be in debt. You want to avoid it like the plague. If you're out of debt, be thankful you're out of debt, because it's not a very fun place to be. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the subscribe button.